Big man.
Greetings, greetings. This is Eeyo here with Blazin Reggae Vibes, and I'm here to give an interview with Taj Weekes.
Yeah, man, this is Taj.
Glad to finally get in touch with you, brother.
No, man, likewise.
Yes, I've been a fan of your music for quite a while, and I really impressed with this album and the last album of yours, Pause.
Yeah. Well, you could see the last album, this album, I went out on my own. So maybe I needed the freedom to do what I was thinking more. So,
Hmm. Well, how did you get involved with music? Was it in your family?
well, you know what? As a little boy, yeah, my father sang and a couple of my brothers played instruments. So they was always singing in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And we sang in school and we sang in church. So that's kind of what started.
And how did that evolve into reggae music?
Well, growing up in the Caribbean, I mean, when the Rastafarian movement passed through, it picked up everybody with it,
Mm-hmm.
because it was a dynamic movement. We had not heard about an I and I movement where the salvation was within. So what we were taught before was a white Jesus and God in the sky. But that movement was dynamic. It picked up all the youth and the music came with it and we all got caught up in it. So.
Mm-hmm. And when did you say officially record your first album or put out your first song rather?
I officially recorded an EP in about 2002, which we never ended up putting out. And the first album, but we've been playing live all the time. The first album came out in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Opened Out, yeah.
Now on this new album, Eyes to See, you said you were stepping out on your own on this one?
No, I left the band in 2018.
Okay.
So the last album, Pause, and this album is just me without Adowa.
Uh-huh. And what do you feel about this one, Eyes to See, and your collaboration with Zion Albert?
Oh, I feel the same way I feel about every album. The album that I do at that time is the most important one.
Mm-hmm.
And same way I feel about it. But, it's lovely to have brought on another singer for a different kind of vibration.
True.
So, I love the album. I love the album. I think I wrote what it is that I was feeling at the time. The songs for me represent a snapshot of, the 9 months it took to write this album.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, that's kind of what I captured.
Well, this album reminds me a lot of Pause, and I'm here to tell you that Pause really struck home to me, and it kind of opened my eyes. I said, I got to check this brother out a little bit deeper because he's coming from a place that I could resonate with, and I was feeling. Tell me about the creation of Pause.
Well, you see, Pause came out of isolation,
True.
And what had happened is I had traveled to Africa. Before that, I was living in Africa for about 9 months, and I think my songwriting changed because as much as I would hate to admit it, I was more so a songwriter from a Western perspective.
Okay.
So when I wrote the first song, Rainstorm, I was watching the news and they were talking about shelter in place. And I said, but some of us cannot shelter in place because we don't have enough space to shelter in.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm in America, my son had COVID. And I could isolate him in a basement and not have to deal with him. But people are not that fortunate. So we have to be careful how we say what we say, because what we say may resonate to us, but it mightn't resonate to other people. And Rainstorm was the first song that came out of that, and I built on that vibration. But Pause for me was an emotional album because I had never lived through such a time period. And I wanted to articulate it in ways that if years down the line I was listening to it, at least I would be able to at least understand what it is that this person was speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Pause. And literally was a pause because we weren't playing music. No live music was happening and my life was on pause.
Right.
So yeah, Pause. Yeah, that's how I got a Pause.
And I looked at COVID as a worldwide event, and I was really curious to know how other artists, musicians, and other people in general around the world were coping with it. And I felt like, we were dealing with it here, but depending on where you live, it was a true life and death situation.
This because you in that song it says, I want to stop the spread, but my predicament is dread. If I stay, we die from hunger. If I go out, we'll be dead.
True.
So it definitely wasn't for everybody the same experience.
Right. So, in Eyes to See, in that album, I felt your compassion for humanity, and I know that you work with UNICEF. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm curious to know, how did you get involved with them?
Well, they got involved with me. To be quite honest, I didn't reach out to them; they reached out to me. Because they had seen what we were doing, and somebody reached out and said, we just need you to continue doing what you're doing. And what?
I just want to be clear on something. So they seen what you were doing in Africa or in the Caribbean or
in the Caribbean.
Okay.
Yeah, because I am the UNICEF champion for children of St. Lucia. So, yeah, that's what we were doing in the Caribbean.
Okay. And that brought their attention to you.
Yeah, because we had been doing work for a while, we had been doing some work for a while.
And how do you balance that? I mean, like with your music and your participation in humanitarian efforts?
Well, there's no balance, because we're not, my thought process and my being is not fragmented.
Gotcha.
Whoever I am, that is, you get all of me.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get the musician, but you'll also get the person who cares about people all at once. So, it just kind of go together. If we go someplace and we play music, we meet somebody who's willing to help us do some charity work, great. And if we go a place to do charity and, music can happen. So, it's not it's just one, we just move as one, and try to get everything done.
Well, what type of personal challenges have you faced in this music industry?
Personal challenges. What I feel is, the music is not doing justice to the music. I feel reggae music is not doing true justice to reggae music, because we have created our own Babylon among ourselves musically.
Mm-hmm.
Where we don't give the music the air it deserves. We give nepotism and politics sometimes too much of a play. And, and some people will not like this. But I feel, there's great music beyond all borders. And we have to give everybody a chance.
True. True.
Because if we're doing that, we're stifling the variety of voices and words and perspectives we can get. We've made the music of one perspective and one particular, we can't all say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't all ride one rhythm a million times. There are other voices to be heard. And we need to open the floor and give everybody a chance.
True. You know, I've been involved in radio for quite a while. And as a taxi driver, I always played reggae music in my cab. And it didn't matter which song I played. If it was reggae, the name that came to mind was Bob Marley. What do you think about that?
Well, at some time we needed somebody to spearhead, But I said to people, this is what I say about this. If you ask somebody about rock and roll, the rock and roll cannot be defined by the Beatles.
That's true.
It cannot be defined by the Stones. It cannot be defined by Bob Dylan, or Bruce Springsteen. Neither can R&B and soul music by Gladys Knight or Stevie Wonder. It's a collective.
True.
So when we need to do reggae, we need to do it the same justice. We can't have one person being the definition of all of reggae. It's not doing reggae any service. And I love Bob dearly. You know what I mean? Bob is an inspiration to everybody. He cannot be greater than he is. He's the greatest there is, and there will never be a greater.
True.
But we cannot have the music defined by one person, because you're doing a disservice to Peter Tosh.
True.
You're doing a disservice to Third World and Bunny Wailer, to the Gladiators and the Meditations, to the Congos. You're doing a disservice to everybody else if you want to define it as one person. It cannot be.
Right on.
So that is how I feel about it.
Let's talk about some of the triumphs that have defined your career in this music business, or music in general.
But triumphs?
Yeah, things that...
The highlights?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what the highlights truly are. The highlights are me being able to do charity work because the music has afforded it. Because at the end of the day, big man, I've never seen a U-Haul after a hearse. So, yeah, that is the highlights for me. Being able to give back, being able to write something decent enough that somebody's willing to purchase it, that I can use some of those funds to help somebody else who needs help. That is the greatest highlight.
Give thanks for that, brother. Give thanks for that. How does your creative process come about with the music and the words, and how does that happen with you?
Well, I don't really truly know. It happens because, if there was a pattern to it, I would say, well, on rainy days or sunny days, or if I'm feeling down. But it happens at all times. I am able to, what I could say about the process is, I think it's the level of consciousness you bring to the art form.
True.
I think it's how open you are to receiving, and how humble you are in the process. I think if you're humble enough, then a lot will come. If you realize that the power that makes those songs is a power that is greater than the power of yourself, then it comes, But I always say it's, sometimes I don't understand what came, but it came, and I'm happy to receive it and put it out.
Give thanks.
And I'm not trying to make it more mystical than it is, but this is truly how I feel about the process, because I've written lines and I'm thinking what brought this about? So I have a line that I love from my second album, The Item, and I'm still looking for it, So I'm going to seek the spaces in my thought to unlearn what I've been taught. I'm trying to figure out where this came from. So I'm saying there has to be a power greater than me, because words were already invented. I didn't reinvent them. I just used what was there, So I'm glad it put itself in a nice, fix the puzzle in a way that I can dig it and I can articulate it and put it out. So I'm thankful.
Okay. So are there any future projects in the works?
Yeah, man. We're always writing, we always are writing. The difficulty at times in putting out the work is the financials to put it out, because you want to put out something that's decent, that leaves some kind of legacy and wasn't something that was gimmicky for the time being, you know. So the art takes funding, it takes time, it takes, you know, because you want the horns to be real and you want the drummer to be real and you want the background vocals to be on point and you want it to be tight and you want the mix to be right, you know. So these things take some time, and independently, it will always be a little more difficult, you know. But we're committed to doing this to the best of our ability. That's all we've always said, you know. It's quality over quantity. It's been the maxim. So yeah, that's it. But the project's always there. We've written the next 3 albums already.
Wow. Give thanks for that. Give thanks for that.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of, if the funding is there, we put the album out right away. But if it takes a little while, then, you know. And in the meantime, we have to live, you know. So that's how it kind of works out sometimes.
Well, that pretty much, I was going to ask you your vision for the next 5 years, but I can see that it's pretty full as you continue to create.
Yeah, but you know what we say, right? My brother MPLE, the Rastaman, told me, you know, what man plan Jah wipe out. So we have it in place, but we don't plan too much because, you know, sometimes what you plan is not how it works out.
That's true.
We have the ideas and we would love to move in that direction unless something happens, and we don't swim against the tide. So whichever way it goes, we follow.
And what message do you have for your fans out there, the people, world in general, as you move forward in this time?
Well, the message is always the same, and it's always simple. Love your neighbor as yourself, you know, and let your vibes be high, and let your message be forever mighty.
Yeah, give thanks. Any final thoughts you want to share with us today?
Well, no, man. The message is clear, you know. Yeah, same thing. Love your neighbor as yourself, you know, that's it.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out, not only for myself, but for the rest of the crew. Rosal, here in the state of New Mexico, we have Reggae Runnings, which is up in Santa Fe. In Albuquerque, we have Eeyo Music, and I've got my own social media platform, Blazin Reggae Vibes. We all share it, so we really appreciate this conversation, and I hope in the future to have more conversations with you, because I see you as a very conscious brother, someone that I learned from, and I want to continue to keep on learning and listening to your music.
Well, listen, man, I have to say this to you. You know, if I make music and you don't play it, it dies. So I am just as appreciative as your efforts as you are mine, you know?
Right on.
Because like they say, you know, it's iron sharpen iron. Yes, so we give thanks.
Yeah.
All right, brother, so go ahead.
As people put music out, when the music touches me, you know, it's like I want to share it. You know, it's like, and that's what this music, it fills me up to a certain degree that it's something I really want to share in any way possible. So that keeps me going.
Oh, give thanks. We truly give thanks.
Right on. Blessings.
All right, brother. Enjoy the rest of it.